You're watching ESPN's Feast Week presented by Lowe's. And this is the PK80 presented by State Farm. Tonight it's the final game in our victory bracket from the Lowe's Center in Portland. A quarterfinal between the 4th-ranked Michigan State Spartans out of the Big Ten and the DePaul Blue Demons out of the Big East. Earlier today, North Carolina and Arkansas won, and just before our game, UConn pulled a bit of an upset. The Huskies out of the American Athletic Conference knocked off Oregon in what was more or less a road game. Connecticut gets the winner of this game at a time to be determined tomorrow. The big story for Michigan State, their star Miles Bridges not in the starting lineup tonight. His status for the game unclear. Sprained his ankle on this play, stepping on the foot of Stony Brook's Michael Almonacci. Bridges is considered day-to-day. Michigan State will play tomorrow and Sunday. No word on his status for either of those games. But for now, we know Bridges, who went through a light warm-up, will not start for Michigan State tonight.
Yeah, and I would not expect to see him at all in tonight's game. And with him not in the starting lineup with that ankle injury, you start to wonder who steps up for a guy that I think is going to end up being the National Player of the Year this year in college basketball. And I look to the freshman, Jaren Jackson. Now, Jackson's got incredible length. He's 6'11", freshman. He runs the floor well. He does a lot of things really fast, and I think that's part of his problem right now. If he slows down just a little bit, I think he'd be a little bit better, and he can have big numbers. When you look at the draft boards, there's a lot of draft boards that have him as a top 10 pick for next year's NBA draft. You look at the numbers that you see on your screen right now, 10.7 points per game. Don't pay too much attention to that because he had 0 points last time out. So those numbers are skewed based on one poor performance. I think he's going to have a huge game tonight.
That's Sean Farnham. I'm Kevin Brown. The third member of our crew tonight is Jeff Goodman with more. Jeff?
All right, I'm a little out of breath from running, down from the other court over here. But Miles Bridges, unlikely to play tonight. He is dressed. The plan is not to play him. I spoke to Tom Izzo earlier, and he said Miles Bridges could go, but certainly they want to be cautious because they don't want this sprained ankle to linger for the next few weeks or month or so. So they're not going to risk it. He's hopeful that he'll play tomorrow.
All right, go get the oxygen mask on, Jeff, and catch your breath. I know you do. You're out of breath. You can see it, and you're actually sweating on television.
Like a sprinter. I was like an Oregon sprinter coming from one gym to the other.
Well, you're a shoe dog.
That's Jeff Goodman, the third co-founder of Nike, a little-known fact. DePaul basketball to start the Blue Demons at 1-2 to begin the year. Out of the Big East, coached by Dave Lato. And DePaul starts with an offensive rebound off a missed Max Strus 3 and then a turnover. Jaren Jackson Jr. taking it away. Great sophomore class for the Spartans. Cassius Winston, Nick Ward, Jeremy Langford, 3 starters, all second-year Spartans. Matt McQuaid to start for Bridges along with the freshman Jackson. Reckless basketball here and a turnover.
Well, that's been a big concern for Tom Izzo's squad this early college basketball season. Too many turnovers, and they've really got to start cutting down those numbers and valuing it a little bit more at this end of the floor.
Here is Cassius Winston, the terrific sophomore point guard out of Detroit. 9 points, 8 assists on the first 3 of the year. Spartans 2-1, but ranked 4th because of one loss, as many of you saw last week. It's that game of the Champions Classic against Duke. Knocked away from Langford. It will stay with Michigan State. Our officials, Terry Weimer, Vern Harris, and Brent Hampton. One of the great head coaches in the history of the Big Ten and the history of Division I basketball. Tom Izzo in his 23rd year. Second in Big Ten coaching wins, Big Ten games, to only Bob Knight. 20 consecutive NCAA tournaments, but he was not happy after his teams lost to Duke in the Champions Classic last week, a game he felt they could have won. Blue Devils took it 88-81 behind a superb Grayson Allen performance. Nick Ward is fouled underneath.
You stay with Tom Izzo just for a second. Michigan State's only had 2 basketball coaches in the last 42 seasons. Think about that. We're in a day and age in college basketball. If you don't win after 2 seasons, they're already thinking about your next replacement. Tom Izzo and Michigan State have stayed the course and been consistent. And because of their trust and their faith in the hires that they make, their basketball program has flourished and continued to stay amongst the elite in our nation.
And the sophomore Nick Ward hits 1 out of 2 to give Izzo's Spartans the first point. DePaul in a brand new arena this year, and they have Dave Lato back for his second stint as coach. This is a program that's seemingly been in perpetual rebuild the last decade plus. They are hoping they have a more experienced, a deeper group that can go about 10 deep this year. They have a grad transfer here and a good one in Marin Maric, who feeds Devin Gage. Kick it out for McCallum, and Tredarius McCallum misses a three. Have a foul underneath going against Michigan State. Nick Ward.
You mentioned Leto and his second stint at DePaul. That new arena is just the lifeline that this program so desperately needed. I mean, to play in one building in downtown Chicago, it opens up recruiting. It's beautiful. And for him coming back to this program, there was a lot of things he had to work on to get it to the point where it's at right now, to get it ready for the stage that it's just about to enter. I think you're going to see an uptick in recruiting, and I think you're going to see this program moving back into the direction of relevance.
Wintrust Arena is the name of the place. They opened it last week with a loss to Notre Dame. 10,000-seat arena back in Chicago for the first time in 37 years. Winston from Langford. And Winston misses a three. Ward and Jackson are both there to play volleyball. And then Michigan State commits a foul. And Ward has just picked up a quick second. 2 minutes and 12 seconds into the game, and Nick Ward has to take a seat.
Well, not the start that you wanted to see for Nick Ward. And that'll bring Schilling into the contest. Gavin Schilling was expected to be a starter a season ago and then suffered a leg injury to his right knee, and then that kind of derailed everything a season last year. And now he's just trying to get back to being 100% and getting comfortable back out on the floor.
That one thrown away by Struz. Michigan State ball. Spartans are much deeper down low this season. Of course, if you don't have Bridges today, that hurts the depth somewhat, but you have Schilling back. Ben Carter missed the season with a knee injury last year. They really like the freshman Xavier Tillman. Matt McQuaid with a three, and Michigan State's first field goal comes from the outside. A young man they need to hit shots.
He was 0 of 3, 1 of 10 so far this season, 0 for 5 in his last 2 games. That is a welcome sign for Michigan State fans to see McQuaid dial it up.
It's not a great season for Michigan State last year, just 20-15, a 9 seed in the tournament before they lost to Kansas after beating Miami. But and a terrific freshman class return, including Bridges, who is a surprise to everyone, even his head coach. Winston hits the triple, and a hot start for Michigan State with back-to-back threes. DePaul has struggled to get anything going here with 3 turnovers and an 0 for 4 start for the field. Struz didn't even get the rim on that one, and Winston saves it to Jackson. Michigan State can run, and Winston threw that one into traffic. Probably shouldn't have ran. Gage to the 10 and scores the first 2, the sophomore from Chicago.
Well, that last turnover from Winston, those are the type of turnovers that's going to upset Tom Izzo. I mean, you've got possession of the basketball. That's like a quarterback throwing a 40-yard pass down the field to a wide receiver that's bracketed by 2 DBs. It's just not a high percentage look. You've got to value the basketball, and you've got to make the high possession, the high percentage, easy passes. And how much did Tom Izzo not like that pass? Well, he's taking Winston out of the game right now.
Teachable moment between the longtime head coach and his sophomore point guard. Tum Tum Neer, and the great senior leader, has entered for Winston.
We saw something out of Tum Tum yesterday at practice that you don't see a lot of in college basketball, and you and I were both talking about it, leadership from within. And for Tom Izzo, it's important that players on his team have a voice. And Tum Tum might not be the best player on the team, but he certainly has their ear. And he's able to lead and help some of these younger players make the adjustment or understand the spacing and what they're looking for offensively.
And he jumped right into the middle of a play and started essentially coaching Jaren Jackson, and Izzo just let it happen. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball presented today by State Farm. Talk to an agent at 800 State Farm. And in part by One and All from Nike Basketball. 16 teams, 2 8-team brackets. Michigan State, DePaul on your left. Florida, Stanford just down the road at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum on your right in the Motion bracket. The winner of that game gets the winner of Gonzaga and Ohio State.
And you look at that score, 99 points for Florida. And this will be the second consecutive game where they've given up more than 100 points. They gave up 100 to North Carolina as well. Stanford's got to figure out some things at the defensive end of the floor to get their opponent out of rhythm.
How about what you've seen tonight of the Spartans without Miles Bridges in the starting lineup?
Well, I don't think they've utilized their length and height well enough so far underneath. You look at everything that they've been able to do, and it's all come from beyond the arc. Now, a welcome sight to see McQuaid knock down the three coming off the screen on the opposite side of the ball, and then Winston stepping into his shot as well. But you would like to see them use Jackson, use Schilling right now, because Ward picked up those 2 personal fouls real quick and is sitting on the bench. But you got to use their length. DePaul is a team that has struggled in playing defense without fouling. Their last 2 opponents have combined to shoot 71 free throws in 2 games. That means you're fouling a lot in opportunities where your opponent's going to take shots.
DePaul's last game against Illinois on Friday, there were 59 total fouls in the game. A game won by the Illini, 82-73. DePaul with a loss to Notre Dame as well on the schedule. Winner of this game gets Connecticut. Loser gets Oregon tomorrow. And McQuaid has the Spartans on their way early. The second 3 for the junior out of Duncanville, Texas.
Well, never mind the whole pass the ball and use your length underneath concepts that I was just talking about, as McQuaid finding himself now from beyond the arc.
You mentioned this earlier. Here's 1 of 10 coming into the game from 3. Has hit 2 tonight. There's a good drive by Eli Kane, the junior who was DePaul's leading scorer last year. 15.5 points per game. Was 2 for 9 on Friday. And he has the Blue Demons' second field goal. Langford off the screen from Schilling.
What a
Back
pass
from Nairn. Left the 3 short.
I love that pass by Nairn.
He is so quick. Gage draws a blocking foul.
Coming right at you down the lane, and Tum Tum's left leg just being brought in ever so slightly. Good call by the officiating crew on what is the most difficult call to officiate in that block charge. Consistently, you break it down, and it happens so quickly right in front of you.
Paul's happy to have Devin Gage back. He hurt his ankle on Friday and the loss to Illinois. He's back up to Billy Garrett last year, who ended his DePaul career over 1,600 points. And Dave Velato thinks he's much more comfortable this year after that tougher freshman year. Didn't get to play too much behind Garrett, but really took control of the point guard spot this offseason. 1 for 2 at the line.
Good job defensive transition right now by DePaul. I mean, they're really forcing Michigan State to play in the half court. They're not giving up any transition layups.
Winston back into the game, along with Nairn. Tom Izzo will play those 2 point guards together some. High rebound for Gage off the Winston missed 3. Gage trying to take it all the way. Jackson got in the way to at least alter it. And a late whistle and a foul going against DePaul. Brandon Cyrus with a personal for DePaul.
Good second effort that time, but then the push from behind and a good call. But for Michigan State, again, they have some size down the floor. I like number 23, Tillman. The freshman, 6'8", 260 pounds. I think he's got a bright future at Michigan State.
He was an ESPN 100 player, number 11 power forward in his class. 9 points, 5 rebounds, 3 blocks on Sunday in just 13 minutes in the win over Stony Brook. Here comes DePaul off the takeaway. McCallum, he was scoreless in the loss to Illinois, and McCallum confidently buries a 3.
And coming off of a turnover by Michigan State.
And another turnover and a foul as Nairn got into Cyrus. Second foul against Tum Tum Nairn quickly off the bench. Those turnovers were a huge issue for Michigan State in the loss to Duke, and they've committed a couple here.
Well, and for Michigan State, we talked about this right off the top. Valuing the basketball, averaging over 17 turnovers per contest. That number has got to come down for Michigan State. And that's 4 turnovers in the contest for Michigan State.
There's a freshman point guard, Justin Roberts, not even close at a 3. McCallum outmuscles Carter for the offensive rebound and throws it away. Langford behind the back. Langford leaves it on the 10, out of bounds. Stays with DePaul. Beg your pardon. This will
stay with Michigan State.
Stay with Michigan State. Blue Demons thought they had it. It will be Spartan ball.
Zone defense here by DePaul.
And that one was off the hands of McCallum.
So credit DePaul right now in their attention to detail. They're clogging up the middle of the paint. They're not allowing Michigan State to even get the ball in there, and they're forcing them to shoot up over the top.
Is that the best way to beat this Michigan State team defensively? Make them shoot over the top of you?
Well, you're neutralizing their length. I mean, look, this is a very skilled Michigan State team, as we've seen. They've knocked down the three-point shots. That's their 4th 3 of the game. So 12 of those 13 points have been off of threes, but they haven't made anything inside yet. So I think you take your percentages and say, hey, we got a chance if we can force them to shoot only over the top.
Winston, wrap around. Ben Carter puts it in with the left. Nifty dime from Cassius Winston, and the grad transfer Carter puts Michigan State up 7, leading to a timeout. DePaul. Dave Lato wants a timeout for DePaul. We'll take a look at what the Blue Demons head coach likes a little bit more than this start on his Thanksgiving night. Early 7-point deficit for Dave Lato's DePaul Blue Demons. The head coach in his 6th year, 2nd stint for DePaul. And on this Thanksgiving, Dave was kind enough to share with us one of his favorite holiday recipes. Now, this is something I've not had. I've never gone into the Hawaiian Island cake on Thanksgiving, but this sounds absolutely delightful.
Yeah, again, a tradition unlike any other. Me asking players and coaches for their Thanksgiving recipes. I like the ones that are specific to their families. You think about the chunks of pineapple, the peach slice. So how do you put it all together? Well, this is how it comes together. Preheat the oven to 350. The baking pan spread with pineapple chunks, both cans of peaches evenly. Then you pour the mix over the top. Melted butter in the microwave. Pour it evenly over the top and sprinkle pecans generously. Bake for 40 minutes until golden brown, and this is the best part. Best served warm with vanilla ice cream. Coach, I'm going to try it. I'm going to let you know.
I can't wait.
I want to try it. It sounds good. Thanksgiving's all about sharing. Thanksgiving is about, food with family and loved ones. And I hope wherever you're at, I hope you've been surrounded by your friends and family today. I know I have. There's a couple of people here in attendance I'm grateful for.
And I'd like to thank our entire crew, by the way, that's here today. Many of them a long way from home. Producers, directors, camera operators, stage managers, statisticians, the whole gang. We really are thrilled to be here to bring you some holiday entertainment. We hope it's been a good one wherever you are. Thanks for spending part of it with us. Roberts trying to backdoor feed. Jaren Jackson to steal from Michigan State, which leads by 7 out of the DePaul timeout. And as a miss 2 from Langford.
I like that, though. In transition, that pull-up was good.
Roberts is really quick. Ran into some trouble there with Langford, and then Jackson helping from behind.
Create some tempo. Force DePaul to have to guard in transition.
What tempo does Michigan State want to play at tonight?
Well, they look to run. I mean, we saw that in the Duke game. And Nick Ward, in particular, in that game was running rim to rim early. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Jackson throwing his body into the back of DePaul's cane right now, and he draws the blocking foul.
But Michigan State's always had the ability under Tom Izzo to play at 2 speeds. And what that means is you can run in transition. If you don't have anything there, then you slow it down and you play in the half court. And that time the foul coming not on the defensive player that pulled the chair underneath Jackson, but the secondary defensive player sliding in and reaching with his arms.
It was the freshman Jalen Butts who picks up his first and exits. Marin Maric, the graduate transfer from Northern Illinois, is back in for DePaul. Here's a three out of the timeout, and it's no good for Jackson, who has the green light to shoot from out there. Hit three of them from deep in that loss to Duke. Kane on the spin in over Winston, and that's the 6'6" Kane going to work on the 6-foot Winston.
That was a great job centering himself, feeling on balance, and a great touch off the backboard. Hey, you and I are sitting here looking at this game. It's a 5-point deficit for DePaul. A pretty good start by the Blue Demons.
Was a 10-2 lead for Michigan State, too. 4 threes for the Spartans early. Winston 5 to shoot off the shot fake, and he was going the wrong way there with Connor George. No Miles Bridges in the first 9.5 minutes. We did not expect him to play for Michigan State, per our own Jeff Goodman's report. Bridges still day-to-day. The Spartans a game tomorrow and a game Sunday. And there's a travel for Gage, who didn't get rid of it after the hop step.
A great job here by Eli Kane and feeling where the defense is, and that soft touch on that spin. That was the previous possession, obviously the turnover right there, but DePaul has been comfortable here. They have not yet fouled and put Michigan State at the line a bunch of times early in this game. They're playing good defense and forcing the shoot up over the top.
Langford way off the mark there, and here come the Demons with Gage. Kane back to Strus. And McCallum bats the ball into the air, into the hands of Langford. Winston, 4-on-1, and Schilling delivers.
Quick shot by DePaul leads to a long rebound. That long rebound leads to the transition look. And Michigan State's so good changing ends of the floor, especially in particular their bigs.
Boy, are they happy to have Schilling back. Missed this season with a knee injury last year. They say he's not 100% yet, but getting better every game. Oh, some terrific athleticism for the big man.
And just a nice dump-off pass. Nothing the defense can do there. Schilling elevates and does the rest.
Out of Chicago, taking it to what could have been his hometown team, the Blue Demons. 6'9", 245 redshirt senior. Tom Izzo calls him the best ball screen defending big man he's ever had. And there's Schilling. Try to get him in a ball screen right now, and that didn't work. Inside with Maric. A lot of contact. Maric missed the first, and he got bumped.
A lot of storylines developing in Feast Week across college basketball. And partner, a good job here, by the way, pinning and sealing, creating the foul opportunity, staying with the ball for DePaul. But a lot of storylines developing. Think about this, the Pac-12 in particular. You had Arizona get upset loss yesterday against North Carolina State. The #2 team in the country loses in its opening round game of the Battle for Atlantis. You had Cal get beaten by Division II Chaminade.
And beaten soundly.
Soundly beaten. You have Stanford giving up over 100 points to Florida tonight. You had Oregon lose to UConn. And then you had Arizona come back again today and lose to SMU.
Amazing. There's the score right there.
I mean, this has not been a feast week for the Pac-12. It's been a feast week for anyone playing Pac-12 teams.
That foul, by the way, the second on Schilling.
There's been all sorts of drama at some of these Pac-12 programs too, Sean. I mean, your alma mater certainly had its share.
Really? What's going on there?
With the middle ball brother and a couple other players being arrested in China. My alma mater, Arizona, has had its share with the FBI investigation. USC is involved. And I really do think that there are some distractions going on in Tucson right now that are affecting how the Wildcats have played.
But wait, Jeff, you think the players are literally, there's a translation of what's going on with the FBI investigation and some of the distractions around that's hurting them on the court. I think Alkins being out hurts them on the court. But Alonzo Trier, he's playing as well as anybody in the country. DeAndre Ayton is one of the top NBA prospects in college basketball.
Put up numbers, Sean. Trier put up numbers against subpar teams, first of all, and he's a great player. But it starts with the coaching, right? And Sean Miller certainly going through a great deal of adversity right now, dealing with the FBI investigation. I think it's crazy to say that the players are completely unaffected by what that coaching staff, and you've got Mark Phelps, their assistant, who was suspended. You've got Book Richardson, who is done. So, again, I know it's easy to say, hey, the players don't worry about all the exterior things going on, but I don't think that's accurate.
Well, I do know what is accurate is the fact that the Pac-12 is not having a good week.
Absolutely.
And this is the time of year where we start talking about what is your resume going to look like in March. You've got to find ways to win. And when you have opportunities like the Pac-12 has or like DePaul has, just trailing by 2 right now to Michigan State, these are the opportunities you have to make now if you want to try to build a resume for later on this season.
Tom Izzo's Michigan State Spartans are the 4th-ranked team in the country. They suffered a loss, though, to Duke at the Champions Classic last week. And Tom knew after that game his team had a few areas of improvement.
We've had a few little injuries. We've moved Miles to a new position. We got, Cash in the starting lineups. We're not going to be totally smooth. We've been pretty good defensively. We've turned it over too much. And we had an out-of-body experience, and give Duke some credit, give us some blame that somebody got 25 offensive rebounds against us. That's illegal.
He talks about that being illegal. They've already given up 3 offensive rebounds to DePaul, so doing a better job as far as shoring that up, but they are getting out-rebounded on the offensive glass. And as far as the turnovers go, 6 already for Michigan State. And that's an area where they've still got to get better at valuing the basketball.
8 of DePaul's 15 points have come off those turnovers. And the man in the middle, Miles Bridges, not expected to play tonight, did not start, have not seen him yet. No reason to think we would. Day-to-day his status for the rest of this tournament. We certainly hope we will see him, but more than anything, I think we all hope that we're going to see him in March, and that's why there's no need to rush Miles Bridges back.
Well, selfishly, I might not see Michigan State the rest of the year. I really wanted to see Miles Bridges now in November. You lose a player, and it's not just a guy that can score. You lose a guy with such a high level of athleticism. He changes the game defensively just by his presence. Guys are searching and looking for him because he has an innate ability of tracking the ball and blocking shots coming from the help side position.
Michigan State with only 1 point so far from the freshman Jaren Jackson Jr. They've hit 4 threes. Jackson gets rid of it here to Langford.
You see how they're making sure that there's multiple feet in the paint all time defensively.
Jackson gets his first field goal on the board. The 6'11" freshman with a drive and score. I'm just blown away looking at Jackson by the length of his arms. He is a physical freak. Jackson guarding the ball right now way up top. McCallum couldn't get rid of it. Instead, it's a deep 3 for Gage. All the way at the end of the shot clock. Devin Gage, the triple, and DePaul is hanging around here, down just 2. Winston a missed 3 on the other end. Kane on the drive-in over Jackson, and that is tipped in by Strus to tie the score.
Well, there's offensive rebounds. Remember, Tom Izzo saying, hey, we gave up too many offensive rebounds. Nobody found a body. When you rebound, and this is where a lot of guys are losing it on the rebounding wars. You have to be able to put a body on somebody. You can't just watch the ball and anticipate your athleticism and length is going to do enough to gather that board.
And they're not getting offensive rebounds either, Sean. Only 2 in the game. DePaul doing a great job of the defensive glass. And here's a Michigan State foul on the drive by Gage.
2 possessions ago, Hands down, a late closeout. Gage got his feet set underneath him. The shot clock was winding down. Then the very next possession, you give up an offensive rebound after a dribble penetration at the iron, and you miss the layup, and you're able to tip it back in. DePaul a chance to take the lead here with under 6 to go here in the first half.
DePaul has only shot 7 of 22. They are out rebounding Michigan State, and they have 8 points off turnovers. They don't have the lead, but we have a foul. And it's going against Jalen Butts, his second. And that's going to be it for Butts, likely in this first half as Maric checks back in. Energetic freshman at a big game against Illinois, and his impact muted so far. Jackson trying to go to work. Two-hand rebound for McCallum. One and done again for Michigan State. DePaul has not led this game. Strus on a cut is fouled. And we've got a Michigan State player. That's McQuaid down on the baseline.
And Tom Izzo can't afford to lose another guard. You mentioned it. They've got the height. Last year they were small. This year they've got great size because they're also missing a couple of components in their backcourt.
Ninth foul on Michigan State, one-on-one for Strus, who was a Division II All-American 2 years ago, and gives DePaul its first lead. See if we can find the injury on the cut.
I think it's knee-on-knee contact, and I'll tell you, there's nothing. You come on a screen and you make knee-on-knee contact, it hurts. And it's not something that usually lasts all that long, though, for McQuaid.
It's a game Michigan State led 10-2. DePaul on a 7-0 run right now. Has scored 20 of the last 30. Has its first lead. McQuaid's pass knocked away. Another turnover, Michigan State. McCallum feeds Strus. Draws the contact, and he'll shoot two. Well, don't forget, football season still in effect. Big game tomorrow for number 2 Miami. The U try to stay unbeaten in Pittsburgh at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Final tune-up before the ACC Championship with Clemson. That game streaming live as well on the ESPN app.
Well, they have the turnover chain at Miami, and right now there's too many turnovers for Michigan State. If they had something like that for DePaul, they'd be throwing the chain all over the floor.
You like the turnover chain?
I do. I'm a big fan of the turnover chain. I'm for anything that inspires guys to play hard and make plays and take pride in doing something for their team. You know, and the turnover is something that gives the ball back to your offense.
Do you think we can get a turnover sweater going?
No.
For you?
No.
Quick no.
I'd like to put it on and not just have it over my arms. I've been told by higher ups I'm not allowed to.
Cassius Winston, tough shot. Whole lot of contact underneath, and another foul going against Michigan State. DePaul is in the double bonus.
Yeah, I don't understand what people are talking about.
Somewhere down here in this range. I don't want to get too tight on that.
Look, I've got the sweater on. Okay, I admit it. It's
you
cold
give
in
the
the
people
arena.
what they want.
There was a woman wearing a parka behind us in the last game. Okay, a parka. She had like a snow jacket on. I'm not going to be shamed by wanting to wear long sleeves in what is a very cold arena.
But you sound like you're ready to be shamed. You're very defensive about it in that you think you'll be shamed.
No, I'm always. Jeff Goodman's on the broadcast. That's what he does best.
Marin Maric to the line for DePaul, which is living at the free throw line right now.
And great, they put me back on camera. Good guys. Okay, yep, I've got the sweatshirt over my arms. You're right.
It's 2 for 2. DePaul, 9 of 11 at the line.
Meanwhile, when we talk about my sweatshirt, guess what? DePaul's up by 6, guys.
This is an 11-0 run.
It's an 11-0 run. Michigan State has not got the ball down low at all prior to that offensive rebound and put back by Jackson. They have been unable to utilize their size. DePaul has played outstanding position defense. This has been a really good first half for a team in DePaul that's still not shooting the ball well. You got to manufacture points, and they've done that so far.
McCallum deep on a 3, and McQuaid pushes it to Winston. They'll slow the tempo for the 4th-ranked Spartans. Connor George getting a couple of minutes here for Michigan State. Redshirt sophomore. I'll give it to Jackson. Feed the block. Let the freshman go to work.
See, that's where I want to see Jackson more frequently in this offense, and that's what I'd like to see Michigan State do more consistently, is especially against a team like DePaul where you have the size and athletic advantage.
7 points for Jackson. That is the most for Michigan State. Preseason newcomer of the year in the Big Ten, the freshman out of Indiana. Strus back for Maric. And a rebound to Ben Carter. McQuaid, a deep 3. Michigan State back in front.
Without McQuaid here in the first half, Michigan State would be in a lot of trouble. It's worth noting, he's got 3 3-pointers made on 4 attempts. He had only made 1 in his first 10 attempts so far this season.
Michigan State answers an 11-0 DePaul run with a 7-0 run of their own. And a missed layup by Strus will lead to a DePaul foul.
And it was McQuaid that drew the foul.
Spartans back in front, and a good one in the victory bracket. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by State Farm. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM. And in part by Lowe's. Hurry in today for huge savings on all things winter.
These kids nowadays, they've got to understand, Portland already has a nickname. It's the City of Roses. So where do they get off calling it Bridgetown? Or the PDX? What's that all about? And now I'm hearing Rip City. Rip City? Man, how's that happen? I guess they just do it. We are Portland, Oregon, home of Nike and host of the PK80 College Basketball Tournament, the largest college basketball tournament ever.
24 games over 3 days, 16 teams in 2 brackets, combined 23 national championships, 89 Final Fours for the teams in the PK80. We are in the victory bracket. North Carolina gets Arkansas tomorrow, rematch of a great round of 32 game from last season. And UConn knocked off Oregon, which means the Huskies await the winner of this one. Great gritty win for UConn. They were an underdog in that game. A remade Huskies roster that got the win with some great guard play and some good defense late. Look at these 2 teams. Michigan State not only projected to win the Big Ten, but a top 5 team by just about every publication. DePaul 10th in the Big East, which has 10 teams.
So the story here in the first half, it's very simple. Langford and Winston have combined to go 2 of 12 from the floor. 2 of 12. The rest of the team, 8 of 12. Now, those 2 guys are not shooting the ball well. And then you're turning the ball over. You're at a working deficit. And you couple that with what you pointed out as well, and to remind everybody at home, Nick Ward picked up 2 quick fouls and has only played 2 minutes here in the first half.
Spartans slapping the floor, trying to get the intensity back on D. 4 Michigan State players, including Ward, with 2 fouls. The cage with a miss, cleared by Carter, and the Spartans can extend their lead, which is currently at 3, despite a bit of a sluggish start.
Well, a sluggish start for them, but DePaul is shooting sub 28% from the floor. They're shooting 26%. And they're right in it.
And there's the 8th Michigan State turnover. Big reason why. Kane bumped, and Kane is fouled.
If DePaul was shooting 33% from the floor in this game, they'd be up by 7.
And that foul is against McQuaid, his second. That's 5 players with 2 fouls for Michigan State, which is already shorthanded without Miles Bridges. Eli Kane, way short on the first. Michigan State's going to bring in Tillman for McQuaid.
This is a big lineup for them now on the floor, and this was one of the things that they worked on in practice yesterday. Tom Izzo knew he was going to have to go to a lineup eventually with 3 bigs. You've got Carter, Tillman, and Jackson out on the floor.
How does that change the offense?
Well, obviously it's going to be more focused about getting the ball down low. Jackson's going to start on the perimeter, but they want to get these guys down low working together.
Screen made by Carter. Winston back to Carter, who is open at the foul line and couldn't get it to fall.
That was a really good and well-designed play. Just did not knock down the shot. And again, clearing your offensive glass, or your defensive glass. A good job by DePaul.
DePaul team that shot under 38% on the year, shooting 26.9% right now. McCallum's hit a couple of threes. Off to Kane. 6 to shoot. Kane out of bounds with 2 to shoot for DePaul. Coming up on the Alfa Romeo halftime report, highlights from today's action in the PK 80. Villanova with a big second half comeback and a win over Tennessee in the battle for Atlantis, and a whole bunch of other ranked teams in action, one of whom Arizona lost in that same tournament. Stick with us. We talk about a huge day in college hoops on this Thanksgiving. Winston nearly had it poked away off the March miss.
Well, he had his head up the floor and didn't see the man that was standing right in front of him.
And that's what Tom Izzo says. He can be a little casual at times, Winston. Sophomore with 8 assists per game, but still learning, still teachable moments here for this young team.
And I like the idea here to go to the zone defense. With the lineup that is currently out on the floor, you're going to take your chances with Michigan State trying to beat you up over the top. So DePaul goes to the zone. Michigan State has to go to the timeout to try to figure out how they can penetrate and break it down.
Dave Leto's DePaul Blue Demons down just 2 with a minute to go here in the first half. Dave Leto, the last head coach to take DePaul to the NCAA tournament back in 2004, where they won a game before losing to the eventual national champion, the UConn Huskies. Jackson with 3 to shoot out of the timeout, stumbles and loses the ball. Another turnover for Michigan State, and Winston fouls McCallum. That will be the second foul against Winston.
And there'll be more free throws for DePaul. And look, this is the crazy thing. We came into this game talking about how DePaul's opponents over the last 2 games attempted 71 free throw attempts. Michigan State has only attempted 4 free throw attempts in this game. Excuse me, 6 free throw attempts in this game.
DePaul has lifted the line here, and McCallum will shoot 2. Darius McCallum, the senior, junior college transfer from Indian Hills Community College in Iowa. Nearly 10.7 rebounds last year for DePaul. It's a team that brought back every starter besides Billy Garrett. And there's optimism that they can get out of the Big East cellar. They're a much deeper group. Just need to find some scoring. McCallum 1 for 2.
That's a 1-point game. I mean, DePaul is going to feel really confident and good about what has transpired for a majority of this first half. And if you're on Michigan State side, you're thinking, okay, we got out of the first half. Right now they still have the lead, and their guys are going to be able to play free and confidently in the second half.
Jackson missed a 3. Nobody got George, who couldn't finish, but Tillman does.
Tillman just takes up some space down there underneath. Good touch off the glass. He's what I call a space eater on the floor.
Xavier Tillman, 6'8", 260. He eats a lot of it. Freshman out of Grand Rapids. DePaul can hold for the final shot. Gage on the drive. Cyrus up to Kane. And he ties it at the first half buzzer.
Great execution on the final possession for DePaul. Now, Michigan State has been careless with the basketball. They watched the ball on the dribble penetration, did not see the rotation and kick out. It was a long run out to try to contest for the buzzer-beating three.
Eli Kane with 8 points to lead DePaul. This game is tied. Jeff Goodman is with Tom Izzo.
Tom, you're having a little bit of trouble scoring, obviously, without Miles. Any thought of throwing him back in there in the second half?
No, I can't do that, but I'm having trouble because they call so many fouls now. That's all we do is drive to get fouled. I think it's the ugliest basketball I've ever seen. The first game was uglier, but we got everybody on the bench. It's not Miles. We got all our guards on the bench, and maybe we did a poor job. So, but I'm not putting Miles in there. I can't do that.
What about the toughness? I know you were worried about that after the Duke game. How do you feel so far in the first half with this group?
We battled, considering I played in a walk-on in there and a couple of freshmen that haven't played in this. I mean, we just had the most bizarre lineup in there. So I'm pleased with how we played, considering who we had in the game. But we just don't have enough bodies right now with all those perimeter guys hurt. We're going to have to do a better job second half. We didn't play very smart. You know, Tom turns it over and tackles the guy. You can't do that when you don't have many players, so we'll get better.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Tom Izzo, open and honest about the way he feels his first half's gone. And it has not gone terribly well for his Michigan State team. 31 points at the half, their fewest this season. As many as DePaul. Eli Kane, the buzzer-beating three to tie this score. We'll go to the studio after these messages for the Alfa Romeo halftime report. Watching ESPN's Feast Week presented by Lowe's. This is the PK80 presented by State Farm. Now the world famous Voodoo Donuts here in Portland, Oregon. If you like donuts, this is about as good of a city as it gets. Portland, Oregon, home to the PK80 all week. This Thanksgiving week, Michigan State and DePaul tied after one half. Kevin Brown, Sean Farnham. DePaul is shooting not even 30% in the first half, and yet they got a tie game with the number 4 team in the country.
Well, when it comes to miscues, I mean, yes, Tom Izzo can talk about fouls, and fouls clearly dominated the first half, in particular for Nick Ward, who was limited to just 2 minutes, but there was a lot of turnovers here in the first half for both teams. Combined 17 turnovers in the first half, 9 for Michigan State. Couple that with the fact that Michigan State was unable to capitalize, as you see more of these turnovers, unable to capitalize on it. 8 of those turnovers ended in steals for DePaul. So it's not just like they're having turnovers where the ball goes sailing out of bounds. These are live ball turnovers where DePaul then is attacking in open space in the open floor, and I think some of that is what caused those foul issues. And you look at the free throw disparity, 15 free throws attempted by DePaul in the first half to only 6 of Michigan State. One other key stat to keep an eye on, Michigan State had 0 block shots in the first half. They're averaging just under 10 per game.
Miles Bridges has not played tonight. We knew he wasn't going to start. He was not expected to play. Tom Izzo told Jeff Goodman that Miles would not play when we talked to Tom at the end of the first half, so we're not going to see him. The Spartans are going to have to do it without him. Certainly have enough firepower to do that, but they have not shot the ball well either in the game. 6 players with 2 fouls for Michigan State. Have Nick Ward back in the game, played just 2 minutes in the first half. Jeff?
Dave Lato told me as he was walking back out on the court, he was happy with their effort, happy with their toughness, but not their execution and timing. He felt like they were off in some of their cuts and their screens and some of the little things that certainly add up and why they weren't able to finish buckets. So he's hoping that improves in the second half, and again, they can match Michigan State's intensity.
What was your biggest takeaway from DePaul's first half?
It was just grittiness. I mean, it was toughness. It was grittiness. I mean, they did not shoot the ball well at all. I mean, talking about cutting, spacing, but they shoot sub 29%, and they're tied at the half with Michigan State. Miles Bridges or not. And in this case, not.
Winston, deflected pass out to McQuaid.
Do you see? There's a careless pass, though. I mean, that pass got deflected and tipped right away.
Winston short, and Michigan State has not attacked the offensive glass much. Only 5 offensive rebounds in the first half. DePaul's done a good job holding them to 1 shot only.
Well, and DePaul brought the double team when they tried to pass it down to Ward on that first possession. They brought the big on big double, and then they were still able to recover without them finding the open man.
Balanced first half for DePaul. All 31 points came from the 5 starters, including McCallum, who now leads the way with 9. Darius McCallum has the Blue Demons in front. They've only led for just over 2 minutes in the game. Jackson using the left hand. That is advanced for a freshman.
And he is advanced for a freshman in every facet and form. You and I saw him last year here at the Nike Hoop Summit, and I talked to his coach, Miles Simon, who used to be working for us and now is an assistant coach with the Los Angeles Lakers. He said the one thing that he learned about Jackson, whether it was here at the Hoop Summit or with Team USA, is just his toughness and his willingness to learn. And I think that bodes very well for this young man as he continues to grow.
5-star recruit with a 7'4" wingspan couldn't get in the way of that. Eli Kane, 10 points now to lead DePaul. And this one is kicked into the 8th row.
You go back 2 possessions ago. Watch this, though, as the ball gets delivered out to the wing. And you freeze here. Jackson is anticipating the screen. He slips the screen and goes right to the basket. And that is anticipation at the defensive end of the floor. And when you're anticipating wrong, you get embarrassed. And that was great movement without the ball for DePaul.
Nick Ward, only 2 minutes in the first half, and this is why Michigan State needs him in the game. Ward has been a beast offensively this year. 19 points per game in the first 3. He's shooting 23 for 30 on the season. Sparty a chance to go in front, and Langford will do just that.
We didn't see many of those opportunities in the first half for Michigan State. Rebound the ball off the glass and be able to get an open look in transition at the iron.
Joshua Langford was only 1 of 6. Michigan State had just 2 fast break points in the first half. McCallum inside. Maric got post position and scores over Ward, playing with those 2 fouls. And 6 quick points for each team in the first 3 minutes of the half. Jackson was held by McCallum. That'll be the 3rd foul on Darius McCallum.
You go back to the other end of the floor, though, and here's the big word for me. If you get 2 feet in the paint, you've got to get the ball, and you see this ball get entered in. There is 1 and there is 2. Both feet are deep in the paint. You're buried underneath the basket, underneath the halo. There's nothing Ward can do there, and that happens when a big man does his work early and aggressively carves out his space on the floor.
Offensive foul here in the cut by McQuaid. That foul is against Joshua Langford, and that is his 3rd foul. So Langford will take an early seat for Michigan State, replaced by Ben Carter. Tum Nairn in the game as well for the Spartans. The 2 point guards, Nairn and Winston, on the floor together. Max Strus, a quiet first half offensively for DePaul. Shot just 1 for 7. Maric, the 7'2" grad transfer, misses a 3. Winston is fouled, a reckless foul by Gage, beg your pardon. Here's the victory bracket. They started with North Carolina blasting Portland and setting up a rematch with Arkansas. What a fun game that was in the tournament. Can't wait to see those 2 tomorrow afternoon.
And, of course, a rematch of that NCAA tournament game. And Roy Williams told me on Monday night, he goes, look, we played really well for the first 5 minutes of the game. And then for about the next 27, Arkansas really took it to us before they were able to get their feet back underneath them and squeeze that game out in the end in their championship run.
Another 3 for Matt McQuaid puts Michigan State in front. He is 4 of 5 from beyond the arc. Shooting that the Spartans did not have in their first 3 games. They have from McQuaid tonight. Jalen Butts trying to grab the offensive rebound, and this is a tie-up. Possession arrow will stay with DePaul.
And DePaul's getting good looks. I mean, that's a free throw line jump shot. They just struggle to score the ball. And they've executed very well against Michigan State from the start of this game. I mean, even when they were trailing early and then they started whittling it away, they've gotten good looks.
It's a DePaul team that was shooting just 37.7% the first three, less than 27% from three. 9-23 last year, 2-16 in the Big East, and picked to finish last again in the preseason media poll. Much deeper unit though. Strus misses a three. They could be better. They could still finish 10th. Big East is loaded once again this year.
Well, I'll tell you one team we're not talking a lot about in the Big East that I think is going to be pretty good, Providence. And I'll tell you why I like Providence when we return to the court here.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball brought to you tonight by Lowe's. Hurry in today for huge savings on all things winter.
It's cross-conference chaos of the best kind. The Big Ten ACC Challenge starts Monday.
Two of the best leagues in America tipping off Monday with Maryland, Syracuse, Wisconsin, Virginia. The Big Ten ACC Challenge with the Big Ten and the Big East here at Michigan State and DePaul. Blue Demons picked to finish 10th in the Big East, but it is a loaded league. Right now, you look at Ken Pomeroy's rankings, 8 Big East teams in the top 54, and you mentioned before we went to break, you really like Providence.
Yeah, you know, look, I love Villanova, I love Xavier, I love Seton Hall. I'm not taking anything away from them, but I think a team that's not getting enough attention right now would be Providence. I had an opportunity to watch them up close and personal at the 2K Classic at Madison Square Garden. Ed Cooley's team is defending the ball extremely well. He's got length underneath this year. Rodney Bullock has found himself once again. And then you think about Kyron Cartwright. He led the Big East in assists a year ago. He came back. He hit the big shot yesterday against Belmont to win the game. Providence was preseason predicted to be 4th. I think they're going to challenge a couple of those teams. I don't know if they can get Villanova, but Ed Cooley's team is worthy of being in the discussion. And Creighton, even though they took the loss to Baylor, I get to see them next week at Gonzaga. I think Creighton and Kyrie Thomas and Marcus Foster is a nice 1-2 punch for Coach McDermott this season.
Butler and DePaul, the two Big East teams here in the PK80. Georgetown was originally scheduled to be in. The Hoyas ended up pulling out after Patrick Ewing took over that job, and DePaul has filled the Georgetown slot.
Yeah, DePaul was originally slated to be down at the Wooden Legacy. They were replaced by Sacramento State in that event, and a great opportunity. And give Dave Leto credit for wanting this opportunity to play a team like Michigan State, knowing that this team is still trying to find its rhythm. And they already had Notre Dame scheduled at home, and then to come back and play Michigan State here in the opening round, and they're playing well.
Well, there are a couple of different philosophies you can have, right? In the non-conference, you can play those softer, lower teams. Some call the cupcakes, or you can get a game like this that you're not favored to win, but you gain experience. You're right with Michigan State right now, that iron sharpens iron sort of philosophy.
I love playing up. I love teams that want to schedule teams. I think, you know, when you talk about college basketball, and we're all fighting for your attention at home, right? We're fighting college football. We're fighting the NBA. We're fighting NFL football today. How do we garner the attention of our audience? How do we promote the brand of college basketball? Well, it comes down to games. If you've got compelling games that people want to watch, they're going to watch. And so I like it when the best teams in the country get after it. I love the fact that the Big Ten ACC Challenge is coming up right off the heels of this.
That last foul, the third on Ward, who is immediately back to the bench.
Look, Tom Izzo has built this entire program on playing difficult non-conference schedules seemingly every single year. Now, you look at this stretch for what they played. They played the Champions Classic. They got a game in between. They come here. They've got the Big Ten ACC Challenge. After that, they've got 2 conference games because the Big Ten is starting earlier this year. And Tom Izzo, year in and year out, challenges his team through their schedule. And a lot of times people look at them early and they go, well, I don't know. It doesn't really seem like it's the type of team that's going to play right where they need to be. And then all of a sudden the Final Four time comes along and Michigan State's starting to peak at the right time.
Here's Langford fading away and burying a 2. Joshua Langford was just 1 out of 6 in the first half. He is 2 for 3 here in the second. And some life injected back into the Moda Center with Michigan State up by 5, a game that was tied at the half. Strus out of the reach of Marich. Here is a look at that upcoming Michigan State schedule, Sean Farnham.
Yeah, you're looking at a stretch now with 6 straight games for Michigan State by the time they leave here against power conference teams, power 6 conference teams, whatever you want to call it, Notre Dame, Nebraska, and Rutgers after they leave the PK80. That is a difficult stretch, and then you throw in there, obviously, the game at the Champions Classic against Duke. And McQuaid looks like he's going back into the tunnel. And remember, Tom Izzo's team shorthanded out top. Didn't matter on that one for Langford, but you can't have McQuaid going back to the locker room for any long period of time.
Oh, as McQuaid, remember, he was banged up in that first half, and he is hobbling back onto the bench now. Meanwhile, Langford has scored 5 quick points. He has 10 for Michigan State, which has scored the last 8. Trying to pull away here from this pesky DePaul team. Where will the scoring come from for the Blue Demons? Kane fouled. Maybe it'll come from him.
You see good ball movement, and against the zone, they were cheating down low on the block. They're so concerned about the interior. It creates a long run out, and Langford able to knock it down.
Just picked up his 4th foul, though, and Joshua Langford with 12:50 to go is going to have to leave. Tom Izzo's not happy. He's furious. Just punched a right fist into an open left palm, trying to teach Langford. This foul is called against Winston, and that'll be his 3rd. There's the frustration from Tom Izzo. Kane in the drive-by. He is fouled.
He got 3 fouls on this one trip down the floor against Michigan State.
Tom Izzo's going to turn the shade of DePaul's jerseys pretty soon. McQuaid with his 3rd foul. Short-handed team, as you said, without Bridges. McQuaid, Ward, and Winston all with 3 fouls. Langford has 4. And Ben Carter will come get Jaren Jackson. Tum Tum Nairn is in the game as well. Couple of missed opportunities here for DePaul. 2 free throws left on the deck. McQuaid wincing a little bit back in the game after briefly going into the tunnel. Six to shoot. It is Carter looking to feed. McQuaid working off a screen. And McQuaid buries the 3.
But he is limping, and he reached down for his knee as soon as he hit that shot. You see him on the defensive end of the floor. A big shot by McQuaid.
Matt McQuaid really hurting here. He's kind of grinding through this. You can tell it's his knee, his ankle. The trainer was tending to him. Looked over and told me Matt McQuaid's going to be okay. This is a kid that's a great shooter, but had made one of his first 10 threes this year. 4 for 5 from deep tonight, and his confidence is up, and he's trying to get through it.
McQuaid hobbled, but producing for Michigan State. The lead 11 over DePaul. We're here in the victory bracket of the Moda Center. Right side of your screen, the national runners-up from last season, Gonzaga. And a tight one with Ohio State. That game over on ESPN2, right next door in the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. 2 8-team brackets, part of this Phil Knight Invitational, the PK80. Thursday, Friday, and Sunday games. There is the motion bracket. Our friends over at the Vet today will swap venues tomorrow. Portland State led Duke at the half, but the Blue Devils pulled away. They get Texas and Florida put up a century plus a few more on Stanford. 108-87 for Mike White's Gators.
Yeah, they can score this year, and they got a couple transfers that have come in and made an immediate impact, and McQuaid's made an impact on this game. He's got 5 threes, ties a career high, as you mentioned, going to break.
McQuaid leading the way for Michigan State with 17 out of the game right now. McQuaid has been banged up for most of this game. We were told by Jeff Goodman he was cramping in that last huddle. No Miles Bridges, no McQuaid for the moment. He looked down on the bench.
And very little turnovers, almost no turnovers here in the second half for Michigan State. That's been a big part of what they've got going on. Only 1 turnover so far over 8 minutes into the second half. Remember, they had 9 in the first half.
And compared to 6 assists in this half.
That's a good point. Sharing the basketball as well.
Nairn and Winston along with George, the former walk-on, Carter and Schilling. Mostly bench unit for the Spartans. Winston, nice feed to Schilling on the bounce pass. He cannot finish. George trying to rip the rebound away. Schilling had it taken away. It's out of bounds. And that will send us to a break. Michigan State up by 11 with just over 11 to play. Coming to you from Portland, Oregon, one of the crown jewels of the Pacific Northwest. Time to check out our assist of the game, brought to you by State Farm. Ben Carter with the dish. Matt McQuaid, one of 5 3-pointers on the game. McQuaid battling injuries here, coming down hard, but finishing off the nice feed from Carter.
Tying a career high in points, career high in 3-pointers made in a single game, and Ben Carter with the nice assist. Ben Carter, a unique story. You got to root for a player like Ben Carter. Now, I think I'm the only analyst in college basketball that can honestly say they've covered Ben Carter at every single place in which he's played. I saw him at UNLV, I saw him at Oregon, and now I see him here at Michigan State. I don't know if anybody else in the country has broadcast games for Ben Carter at every single one of his stops.
Yeah. You're the president of the BCFC, the Ben Carter Fan Club.
Player though that's overcome some leg injuries, some knee injuries, and to be part of this team, and all he wants to do is finish out his career on a team that has a chance to win a national championship.
He was only cleared 6 weeks ago. George with another offensive rebound, and he keeps it here for the Spartans, Jeff.
That's the walk-on, Connor George, who's the son of the volleyball coach, making a play there. And the other guy that's really been playing minutes is Ben Carter. And he told me he didn't even think he'd be on the court yet. Torn ACLs in successive years, and he figured that he might not play at all. He got a 6th year from the NCAA first and foremost, and then he felt like it would take him another 10 games or so before he'd be able to play.
I joked with Ben, his son turns 13. I said, he was like 7 when you started playing college basketball, and you're still here.
McQuaid back in the game and connecting on a 6th 3.
Career highs on both now, and boy, has he been red hot.
9 3-pointers in the game for Michigan State. McQuaid has 2/3 of them.
What a breakout performance by McQuaid.
This is a 14-0 run for Sparty. Jackson with a takeaway. Tum Nairn has George on the drive. And we've got a whistle as George went up.
I don't know what the call is here. There's nothing definitively being shown here. Well, they're going to call a foul.
Look at that 6'3" for McQuaid beforehand, who seems to be feeling better. DePaul wanted to travel, and it's going to be a foul.
I thought it was a travel. I mean, Connor George was pretty excited to catch the ball in an open floor like that, and as he made his move, I thought that was a definite travel. But I will say this, Connor George has brought some spark and some fight and some life to Michigan State.
Moved into the rotation really extra for this game because of the injury to Bridges. Michigan State a little short-handed with some foul trouble as well.
And you watch this on the catch. That's a travel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a travel. That's not a foul.
He's played tough, though. Big offensive rebounds in this half. George, who began his career as a walk-on, awarded a scholarship in August. And Jeff mentioned it, his mom, Kathy, the Michigan State volleyball coach. DePaul has not scored in what feels like forever. And the Blue Demons are going to get to the line here. 6+ minutes, nearly 7 now without a point for Dave Lato's crew. And I've got a couple of free throws coming up from Eli Kane. Just 1 for 4 at the line, though, today. And it didn't feel like DePaul's had the ball the last 5 minutes with the way Michigan State's drawn out possessions and rebounded offensively.
And Michigan State has done a really nice job. And for Dave Lato's squad, I mean, you look at this, there's a lot of positives that he's going to be able to watch in film. But the offense has got to get figured out. Hey, at the end of the day, you can play all the hard-nosed defense. You can stay disciplined. You can try to take away the interior of your opponent like they have against Michigan State. But if you can't score the basketball, you're not winning the game.
Ball shooting just under 29% for the field. Jackson fouled on the way up. A bump from Jalen Butts.
That was a good job by Jackson on the drive off the wing.
4th foul against the freshman Butts. Over on the right side of your screen in the motion bracket, we are nearing a halftime as Gonzaga has scored 7 in a row. Pulled away here at the end of the first half against Ohio State. The new Buckeyes head coach Chris Holtman.
I believe that's Killian Tilly at the free throw line. No Tilly on that one. He missed the free throw.
Jackson with a free throw here.
And Jackson having a very solid and efficient game. Nothing that's going to really jump off the pages, but close to a double-double.
What impresses you the most about his game? Not just his physical size, but what impresses you about his game as a player, putting aside the wingspan?
Well, what I like about him in today's game is he hasn't really forced it all that much. You know, he's allowed the game to come to him. And I think sometimes as a freshman, look, when you have his attributes, this is at the high Division I level that you're watching right now, right? Imagine him at your normal high school. Go back to your high school years and think about trying to figure out, okay, who on your high school team would try to stop him? And I guarantee you that player is not playing in college in most cases. So the game came so easy at the high school level that now that things are a little bit more difficult, you actually need to slow down, not speed up. And a lot of times a young freshman will speed up, and when they do so, their productivity falls. And I think that's what happened last time out for him. Today, the game has been simplified. He's just staying within himself, and he's making solid, productive basketball plays.
5-star McDonald's All-American Jaren Jackson Jr. did not score in 14 minutes against Stony Brook last time after the big game against Duke, and a much more solid performance with 11 and 7 tonight. By the way, the foul was Cassius Winston's 4th, so he is out of the game. Winston with 4 and Langford with 4, both sitting right now for Michigan State.
Well, foul trouble is still an issue here. You're looking at the score right now and you're saying, okay, look, they're up by 12. Things are going good for Michigan State. But with the foul troubles being what they are, stay tuned.
It's a hodgepodge lineup, that's for sure. Jackson is fouled on the way up with 3 to shoot, and that's a frustration for Dave Lato.
And the drive down the lane, a lot of swiping hands going in on the ball. That's a good call.
Justin Roberts commits the foul. Take a look at the shot here when we get the spot cleaned off, because Jackson, it just doesn't seem like he has much rotation on the ball, but he still has that range. He will be greenlit from 3. He's taken 4 today. It'll take us a minute to clean up this spot. This is the 4th game played on this court today.
And you mentioned it, though. You look at some of the attributes he's done. He put some weight on over the summer, put some time in the weight room, try to change his frame a little bit. And a great game against Duke. Got a lot of people's attention that night.
Tell me what you see in this shooting form for the 6'11 Jackson.
It's not bad. I mean, it's just from my vantage point, it looks like it rests a little bit too much on the palm of his hands. It's not necessarily coming off all the fingertips, which is what's giving it that lack of rotation, but it's still rotating. It's just not spinning it.
2 for 2 there, both swishes.
Well, good to me. I mean, if it is not, you want to change that shot, go ahead and change it, Kevin. But
I'm just asking. I'm no shot doctor here.
But you did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Way to give away our hotel, Sean. People will be lined up for miles now.
To get your autograph, I know.
Lead is a game-high 14 for Michigan State, which has taken a tie game at the half and blown it open. With no Miles Bridges, with a lot of McQuaid, who could not hit his would-be 7th three. Justin Roberts, a terrific freshman, can't convert for DePaul, which is ice cold. 3 for 13 from the field here in the second half.
And Tom Izzo wanted him to put the brakes on that possession.
This is Tum Tum Nairn, the longtime captain, and there is a violation going against Michigan State away from the ball. And there was Jaren Jackson called for the offensive foul. Amazingly, that's only Jackson's first foul in a game where Michigan State's committed 21 as a team. That's a little bit of progress. Fouled out in just 14 minutes on Sunday against Stony Brook. So a whole lot of areas where Jackson has made strides tonight. Marich lost it. Poked away, taken by George. Winston back in with the 4 fouls along with Nairn. Jackson wants the ball, guarded by the 6'6" Kane. Now he's a screener for Winston. And now he'll get the ball. Pass out of the double, great feed. Nairn inside to Tillman. That's beautiful basketball for Michigan State.
That's the best offensive possession we've seen all night. Dump the ball down low, reverse it, and then work it back inside.
Gage takes to the 10, the transition 2 for DePaul. And Michigan State will pull it back out. Tom Izzo still fiery on the sideline, even up 14. Winston has a much taller Strus on him, and Jackson is called for another offensive foul. On this Thanksgiving, we are thankful for the many faces of Tom Izzo.
Look, it's not easy being a head coach. You know, people say, hey, I want to be a coach. But you're working so hard. You're squeezing all the juice, and that's one of the best coaches in college basketball, bar none. His team looking okay right now, but in foul trouble. Let's go inside the play. Michigan State up 57-43 as we come back here at Feast Week presented by Lowe's. Watch this. On the catch, here comes the double team. Now you see where the double team's coming from, so that means your pass is going to be exactly where the double team came from. So now you swing it on out. Now as we freeze it on the catch, you've got the big rotating to cover. What do you see here? A lane wide open. Turn down the shot, get a closer, higher percentage look. That is just beautiful offense, shifting and rotating the defense and finding a seam to get a clean look.
8 of Michigan State's 14 assists have come in the second half. They have shot the ball much better after a sloppy start to the game. Big man Jaren Jackson Jr. with 13 points, 8 rebounds for Sparty, which is just under 7 minutes away from a date with UConn. The Huskies getting the win in the first of our nighttime doubleheader over Oregon. The loser of this game gets the Ducks tomorrow. Fight for the ball inside. Cassius Winston dives onto the deck. There's a jump ball headed Michigan State's way. Foul trouble right now for the Spartans. Winston is in the game with 4. Joshua Langford, beg your pardon, still out of the game with 4.
A good scrap on the floor. Ward getting after, kind of initiated. Then other bodies all coming in. And I think Nick Ward only has 3 points and 2 rebounds in the game and has only played 7 minutes. A relative non-factor.
Ward, a relative non-factor. Miles Bridges, an absolute non-factor, not playing with the ankle injury. McQuaid has lifted the Spartans. Winston with 7 assists. Winston with a 3 here. He has not shot the ball well tonight, but he buries that one. 6 and 7 along with 5 rebounds.
But you know, we talked about the inside-out shifting the defense, and that all started with Jackson making that great cross-court pass, realizing where the double team came from. That time another unselfish play by Jackson, finding the shooter, actually getting the assist, and then coming down here and getting the rebound. Playing within yourself, having great court awareness. I really like what I've seen in the last couple of possessions by Jaren Jackson.
This team is known right now for its terrific sophomore class, but Jackson, the freshman, might be as talented as any. Missed it long there, batted out of bounds, and it will go to DePaul.
Once triple team comes in the zone, miscommunication, nobody talking. You find him in the corner and a great shot. And then as he tries to get up, a little wet spot. Be careful.
There have been a few of those tonight. Strus is fouled on the way up. Max Strus will shoot 2. We'll see how the other court plays tomorrow. You and I will head over to the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, where these teams will shift. The victory in the motion brackets will change venues. Foul called on Connor George there. Max Strus, a Division II All-American at Lewis University a couple of years ago in Romeoville, a suburb of Chicago. Scored 20.2 points per game.
The best thing, guys, about moving over, you guys moving over to veterans, is that Farnham gets to shed the sweater.
It's warmer over there, right?
No, it may be too warm. So I don't start taking clothes
Don't go
off
too
Farnham.
far.
No,
Yeah.
Okay?
I don't do that.
Nobody needs to see that.
No, I agree. That's the first thing you've said tonight that I actually agree with, Jeff. Most of it, well, quite frankly, hasn't been that great. But we appreciate your effort tonight. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Appreciate it, Jeff. Likewise.
Folks, this is what you get on PK80 After Dark. Unfiltered stuff from Jeff Goodman and Sean Farnham. Ward with a follow. Chance for 3.
That's a big moment for Ward. You know, he hasn't had a great game, hasn't got the ball in his hands often, carves out space on the offensive glass, and able to get the putback and power through. I mean, he really hasn't had much of an opportunity to get engaged in this tournament yet, and maybe that's a moment where he gets re-engaged into what Michigan State does.
Tom Izzo said last year he was a poor man, Zach Randolph. This year, before the season, he knocked one poor off. He's a poor man, Zach Randolph. Now, he's got a good offensive game, though. And there's a charge drawn. Kane barreling in on Nairn.
And this game has slipped away from DePaul. Their inability to score the basketball ever present here in the second half. Only 14 points scored through 15 minutes of play here in the second half. Michigan State has really asserted itself out of the locker room.
Dave Leno will try some pressure here. Winston gets it out of the double team. Nice feed to Nairn. Nairn up top. Look out below. Nick Ward over the top. And Michigan State's lead is 20.
And that all started with a great hard cut against the press by Tum Tum.
Kane with a miss, and Jackson outlets to Winston. No need to overexert the tempo here. Winston will slow it down.
And that's a double-double for Jaren Jackson.
13 points, 10 rebounds for the fabulous freshman.
And staple of Tom Izzo's programs, they share the basketball extremely well. 15 assists on 21 made field goals. And when you look at assists tonight, we've seen a lot of good ones. Ball rotations, but none as fun as the alley-oop and the finish. You just watch the beautiful pass as the defense elevates up and Ward gets behind it and just drops it right in.
A little more spring in Nick Ward's step, do you think, this year?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, he's lighter. I mean, you shed off some of that weight. You start getting a little bit more explosive. You also change ends of the floor faster too.
Saw that. You mentioned earlier some of those rim runs in that Duke game last week. He has added, they say, 5 inches to his verticals, dropped a ton of weight since coming here as a freshman. Last year he did not play big minutes, in part because of foul trouble, but in part because he just wasn't in the same shape he's in right now. Cassius Winston really worked on his body as well. This Michigan State team feels it's in much better shape, which I think is what happens when you have these freshmen get a year in a college weight room, right?
Well, it's what happens anytime you work hard. I mean, look, there's a lot of things you can fake. You know, like you can say, "Hey, I went to the gym. I improved my game." You were in the game. You were in the gym, but were you doing game activity? Were you taking game shots? Were you really working on your skill set? Here's one thing you can't fake: getting in better shape. Losing weight. You can't fake it. You either do it or you don't. And you look at Nick Ward, he's dropped a lot of weight. Another player that comes to mind, Tyler Davis from Texas A&M, he has shed over 100 pounds, well over 100 pounds now, since his junior year of high school. He's much more agile, much more productive. So when you see players like Ward and you see players like Tyler Davis, you understand the discipline that it takes to be that successful and change your body and change your physique.
Basket for Devin Gage for DePaul. Gage has 8 for the Blue Demons, who are led by Kane's 12.
It's like that commercial we're airing all PK80. I saw it a bunch today in the morning games. Flab to abs in 30 days.
Yeah.
Part of it is nutrition. Well, if you can do all the workouts you want on that, but if you're not following the nutrition program, it's not going to make a difference.
So you're saying I should put down the Cheez-Its?
No, you can have the Cheez-Its. You're okay. You actually need to keep eating. You need to go in the other direction.
Okay. Thanks for that, Sean Farm. He's available for personal nutritional advice. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball presented by State Farm. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM. Looking across the way at the world-famous Voodoo Donuts here in Portland. Open 24 hours. I think at some point we'll be making the trek out there this weekend.
Again, I think that's a good call for you. Meanwhile, plus 20 here in the second half for Michigan State. Minnesota riding Jordan Murphy, who Ed Cooley, that's who they lost to. Ed Cooley said Jordan Murphy is the toughest and best player that he's coached against. That's saying a lot. And he said he never had a kid come in and play the kind of way that Jordan Murphy did against Providence. And Minnesota's got a good one there. Meanwhile, Purdue, they fell to Tennessee in the opener of the Battle for Atlantis. And then Iowa was stunned twice down in the Cayman Island Classic. They had a good freshman with some good size in Luka Garza.
Yeah, you have to figure that Iowa team's going to round into form at some point. They got a lot of good sophomores. They're a young team under Fran McCaffrey, but so far not great for the Big Ten. Jeff, what do you have on this conference?
Yeah, I mean, Sean, to me, the biggest storyline in the Big Ten is Northwestern struggling.
Yep.
You know, they got the target on their back a little bit. They're not sneaking up on anybody this year, and they've kind of faltered a couple times with a similar team, you know, certainly than they had last year.
I don't panic, though, this early. Again, we talked about this throughout the course of the day. Fans want to panic if their team takes a loss, you know, and they go, oh, my gosh, what's going on? What's wrong? Why aren't we playing well? This is a process. You're talking about 30-plus games for these teams over the course of the regular season. You look at the preseason poll where these teams were predicted to be at. And, okay, so Purdue takes a loss, and Minnesota's playing well, and Northwestern's not necessarily giving everything that we thought. That doesn't mean at the end of the season that the Big Ten won't look something like this. And it doesn't mean that they can't find similar success in the postseason, in my mind.
Joshua Langford has just fouled out. So Langford, the first Michigan State player disqualified in the game. Who is a Big Ten team that maybe we're not talking about right now that we should know?
I still think Minnesota is that team.
Are they the second best team in the conference?
I think they could be. I think they really could be. And we're looking.
There's an elbow to the face delivered by Strus to Langford. That's what the officials are reviewing.
Here's the key on this review. And we're lucky enough at ESPN that J.D. Collins came and spoke to us and reviews the rules. And when you look at this play in particular, you can rip through as long as your arms are perpendicular to the floor and not parallel. So if they're vertical and it's inside your cylinder, not extended away from your body going into the cylinder of the defensive player, even if there is contact made, that will not be assessed a flagrant foul due to the non-basketball contact with the elbows. I think I'm saying that right, although I'm not 100% sure that J.D. Collins would agree.
So what do you determine here as we see this a couple of times?
It's hard because of where it's located on the screen as far as our vision of it and the play that we're looking at to see exactly where that was if he extended out because of our camera angle and the way that we're shooting down on it. The officials are going to take a look at this and they're going to have to figure it out, but this is as complicated as one I think that you can find because it's close to being within the verticality inside the cylinder in a normal rip-through move. So we take a look low. The question becomes this: is Langford straddling, and is he leaning in? And they're going to say it's a basketball move, and I don't disagree with it. And it doesn't take away any of the pain from getting hit. And Langford's on the bench.
He's got the nose
and
plugged
he's got
up right
the
now.
nose plugged up. But you know, if you as a defensive player are leaning in with your head, and there's a basketball play that the player has that right to that cylinder and that location, that's on the defensive player.
It's your own personal cylinder, essentially. You can't violate the space, and Strus will go to the line. Max Strus will shoot two. Langford has fouled out of the game with 3:12 to go.
I mean, now that's a hard foul to foul out on, I will tell you that. I mean, as a player, you're going, wait, I just got popped in the face. How did I foul out on that when an elbow made contact with me? Well, it's because, again, your defensive position infringed upon the cylinder of the offensive player.
And that's the takeaway, right? It's not just what you do physically with your body, it's how you're positioned.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 seasons ago when they started putting in the rule about the elbow rule. Like, I mean, when contact was made, I mean, it was immediately like monitor, and there was a flagrant going on right away. And this is all part of the evolution of that rule and that change to allow the offensive players to have a little bit of space to rip through. Because what happened when that rule got put into place is defensive players started crowding, and they were sticking their face right in there, almost begging to get hit. And it limited the freedom of movement for the offensive player.
That last bucket was Cassius Winston's 8th assist of the game. Xavier Tillman with 6 points, 3 for 3. Carter and Schilling will return. Jackson and Tillman to the bench for Sparty. Likely for the final time today.
Really good second half for Michigan State.
Strus, George had a hand in his face there. Didn't block it, just altered it. Only one block in the game for Michigan State, which came in averaging nearly 10.
57% shooting here in the second half for Michigan State. 13 of 23.
First half, there were 11 of 28, shot just 39%.
And only 4 turnovers in the second half as well, after having 9 in the first half.
How about George on the offensive boards? This kid has played a great second half.
He's got 5 offensive rebounds in this game.
Former walk-on making a difference down to the post.
You know, it's not hard. It's not overly complicated. Even with all the foul trouble that Tom Izzo talked about at halftime with Jeff Goodman, if you play the game, what a move. What a move. Come on. Have yourself a game on Thanksgiving. Help yourself to 2.
George rewarded for his tough work with his first bucket. Tonight on SportsCenter, Cowboys in crisis. Dallas drops a big lopsided game to the Chargers. Herm Edwards on the drama in Dallas. Some touchdown festivities, best NFL celebrations of the season, and we look inside the numbers for the Alabama-Auburn Iron Bowl, one of the most hyped Iron Bowls ever, leading into the matchup coming up after the game on ESPN.
That's all fine and dandy, but I want to see Connor George again. I want to see Connor George going off the wing and scooping the layup in. I'm excited for SportsCenter. Don't get me wrong, I love myself some SportsCenter.
You want to see Connor George on SportsCenter?
It might be highlight worthy. Who's ever editing it back wherever SportsCenter is being taken out tonight, Connor George scooping layup.
Bristol, I think, is where that happens.
Well, it could be the LA studios.
It could be. Yeah. You know, it probably is LA. I'll concede that point to you.
Okay, thank you. X gets the square. But George, 5 offensive rebounds in the game, and it paying off for Tom Izzo's team tonight. They've gone deep into the bench. They're playing without Miles Bridges. Nick Ward, a non-factor for a majority of the game.
Closing in a minute to go. Paul Reed, the freshman, with a miss. We'll show you in just a second our bracket for tomorrow. Game time set for tomorrow's Michigan State UConn games and DePaul, Oregon, here in the victory bracket of this PK80. And an offensive foul against Nairn. The whistle will give us a chance to do that. All right, here you go. Midnight Eastern, 9 Pacific. Another late night tomorrow. Sean Farnham. Big game between the Huskies with that great win over Oregon and the Spartans. We don't know if Miles Bridges will play. Still day to day. Out today with the ankle. Fascinated to see what that matchup brings.
Well, you've got a UConn team that did a lot of one-on-one basketball today against Oregon, and they found success penetrating the defense. I don't think they're going to find it as easy to try to penetrate Michigan State's defense. And for Tom Izzo's team, look, you battled through some foul trouble, you battled without Miles Bridges, and you found yourself successfully advancing.
And there's the Black Friday menu. Oregon, DePaul, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 local. ESPNU will have that one, and the ultra-late one, UConn and Michigan State. The Spartans tied at the half, blow out DePaul by 22 in the second, and they pick up a win for Tom Izzo, who has to be feeling good about the way his team finished this game. It sets up a dandy between Connecticut and Michigan State, 2 national championship programs who will meet in the semifinals of the victory bracket. North Carolina, Arkansas, UConn, and Michigan State with the wins today in the victory bracket. Tom Izzo and Sparty get it done. As we say so long from Portland, SportsCenter is next.